Jennifer, thanks very much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate you making the effort to come on. How's things today, all right?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, all good for me. So, when we get started, we'll obviously talk about what you've achieved. 30 million females in the UK just now, and last year you were crowned the fittest out of all of them in the CrossFit Games in Europe, in Berlin. That is some tagline to have, is it not?
Yeah, it's been weird getting used to it, but yeah, it's good to have.
Yeah, we'll obviously get on to your career and your career so far as an athlete, but if you don't mind, I'd like to know a little bit more about yourself. So if we could take it back to your childhood, where you're from, where you grew up, and we'll just walk through your life up until now.
Yeah, so I started in sport from the age of 9, so I live in Kirkintilloch, and I started in swimming, so we just joined like the local swimming club in Kirkintilloch. Me and my brother both swam up until I was about 14. With swimming, we did like land training, so I was quite like naturally gifted at running.
Yep.
And one of the coaches had said, "Oh, why don't you try out for like the triathlon squad?" So the actual Scottish triathlon squad tryouts were happening at Stirling University. So I tried out that for the team, got into the team. So I competed in triathlon there for about a year and a half, 2 years with the Scotland team. Yep. And then from there, this was about age 15, 16 at school. So I was like right in with my hires. My family are very academic,
right? Okay.
Which doesn't come naturally to me at all. So triathlon is quite like CrossFit in the sense that it's such high volume. So you've got like 2 hours in the pool, hour and a half in the bike, hour run session that you're doing like every day essentially. You know, some days you won't do running, some days you won't do swimming, but essentially you're doing all that volume. And that with my hires and being at school like 9 till 4 and then trying to get that training in and then trying to get the studying in, I found it impossible. And I kind of fell away from sport at school to get my hires. Got my hires, went on to university, studied sport development at uni. And during my time at university, I just started going to the gym to get back into like some fitness. I found it really difficult going from like basically like a full-time athlete at school to nothing. Like I literally went cold turkey to nothing. So joined the gym, started going running and swimming again, and someone who came up to me in the gym like, "Oh, you're quite strong for your weight. Have you ever thought about doing some powerlifting?" And I was like, "Nope, but I'll give it a go." Yeah. So from there, I then competed in powerlifting for about a year and a half, 2 years. Did the Scottish universities, won that in my weight class, and then I was third in Britain for my weight class.
Amazing.
And
after only doing it a year?
Yeah, but yeah, I kind of had like the beginners picked it up really quickly.
Just through yourself, totally right.
Yeah, and I guess having like that sporting background as well, you do pick up, like you can pick it up a lot quicker essentially as well.
The powerlifting training, correct me if I'm wrong, sorry, it must have been a step back in terms of intensity, or maybe not intensity, but frequency.
Yeah.
Because you need to allow your body a lot of rest, don't you, in powerlifting?
Yeah.
So instead of 5 or 6 times a week, maybe 2 sessions a day, you maybe only train 4 days a week.
And yeah, that's exactly it. It was like a complete difference. But for me, because I went like complete cold turkey, even just having any form of training again was good for me, and having like a program to follow especially as well, because going again from like such a structure and a routine, and you know, if you turned up to your swimming session and the coach wasn't there, like nobody got in the pool, like it was so coach led and everything like that, to then just go to the gym by myself and not really knowing what I was doing. So even having like a program to follow on my phone, you know, ticking it off as I go, was like, it was good for me. But powerlifting is exactly that. It was like 4 times a week, 5 times a week at most that you would do your program.
There's not so much endurance, cardio, engine work, is there?
No.
Take us back a little bit. Obviously, during my research, I want to know, was there a certain kind of instant that happened that made you want to learn how to swim?
Yes. I actually fell in the canal.
I had to get that in there. I read it and I was like, that's good, that must be true. So tell the story.
So I was about 8 years old. I was out cycling with my mum and my brother, and me and my brother had cycled away from my mum. He's only a year older than I am, so he's only 9 years old. And we were cycling as fast as we can, and we're like pretending to cycle away from our mum. So I like went to look back, and as I looked back, lost control of the bike and went straight in the canal. And of course he's 9 years old, so he didn't know what to do. So he's just standing like staring at me essentially in the canal.
You're swimming around like a dog. Could you swim?
No, I couldn't swim.
Jeez.
We'd done like lessons, but no, like could not swim.
Not to overcome the panic of obviously falling in and then the cold and stuff. So what happened to take it? Was your mum alerted? Did she see?
So she was ages behind us, but luckily there was this man out jogging behind us, and he pulled me out and pulled my bike out as well. Yeah. My mum regrets so much like not getting this guy like a big thank you and all this, and because she just like, she says the shock of the moment, she just like was panicking like trying to get me home. But
so the man that saved your life,
man that saved my life, don't know who it is.
So the next day you were at swimming lessons basically.
Pretty much, yeah. So we were flung into the club from there, and my brother, he still swims. He still swims for Stirling University. He's a really talented swimmer, and he was always like, he had the talent and he works hard, he loves it. Yeah. But I had to work hard. Like I wasn't naturally talented at swimming. And I always was like, we'd go training together, and I'd always just be like, do you just never want to go, Chris? Like anytime you're just like, don't fancy it. He's like, no, I love it. But like, I get it now with CrossFit. Yeah,
do you hope you drag him to CrossFit sessions?
Well, yeah, he's done a few.
Good. So where does obviously you touched on the fact that your family is very academic, and maybe fitness was a focus for you since you kind of struggled naturally with your studies. Was there any family members or like inspirational figures that you kind of aspired to follow or be like, or was this just solely down to your own kind of mindset and finding a love for sport in general? Yeah,
none of my family members are actually sporty at all. So as I say, they're all very academic. Mum's a doctor, dad's a dentist, lawyers in the family, things like that. So for me, like studying sport at uni, I felt like I was going to be like a disappointment. So coming out of school, I actually went to, had applied and got into occupational therapy.
Right, okay.
It was just really any excuse for me to like pick something academic.
show that you can get a degree in something.
Absolutely. So I actually like went to the open day and was sitting there, and I was like, I can't do this. So I last minute had to apply to sport, and luckily got in. The only university still accepting applicants was University of West of Scotland.
Right, okay.
At that time, because UCAS and everything had finished. Yep. So yeah, I just applied basically like the backfill spot and went and did sport from there.
That was a good body swerve, wasn't it? Yeah. And did you love it? Did you struggle with the study side with that as well? Or was it because it was mixed in with the sport, it was doable? Or?
Nah, like I think, so like I graduated with a first, I think because it was sport, like when you don't enjoy something, you struggle with it. And for me, like I've never enjoyed maths, never enjoyed chemistry or biology, like I just never, so I struggled with it because I didn't enjoy it. So when I was studying sport, because I enjoyed it and it's something I'm interested in, it was
you've got that passion and focus there for it. So going back to powerlifting, did that just get a bit monotonous for you? Did you miss the cardio and endurance training side of things? What kind of made you change from a powerlifting background or discipline into more CrossFit style?
So actually, if it wasn't for COVID, I'd probably still be doing powerlifting.
Really?
So I was still doing powerlifting when lockdown hit. And me and my brother, like the night before, were queuing outside in Renfrew outside this gym warehouse, bought a barbell, bought a bunch of plates, spent like my full month's wage and uni salary on buying all this kit. So we like completely kitted out our garage, got a skip, cleared it out, it was like, when you opened the door, it was like the mother of all messes. You couldn't move in that place. But we made it into like a pretty decent garage gym. So I continued my powerlifting training, but I just got bored, because we had all this time and it was only 4 times a week that you needed to train for powerlifting. So I started going again out runs, started going out my bike again. Me and my brother were going like open water swimming. So I just started to incorporate like some more endurance training again with my powerlifting still. And then when lockdown lifted, it was actually one of my friends that was like, look, you've got this like crazy endurance and you've got this strength, like you should try CrossFit, like combine the two.
It was a perfect kind of it was a perfect apprenticeship almost for CrossFit, because obviously, hopefully you maintain some of the long-standing endurance and engine work that you had done in swimming and your triathlon mixed in with the barbell and powerlifting work. Yeah. Was there any gymnastics?
No. So yeah, anyone who knows me knows that's where I struggle.
Is that your
struggle in CrossFit? But no gymnastics. Never really done it. I've never done it as a kid or anything like that. But yeah, funny enough, when she said, "Oh, why don't you join CrossFit?" and I like put into Google nearest CrossFit gym. Yeah. The gym that I go to is like 400 meters from my house.
No way.
And I never knew it existed. Like literally didn't know it was a thing. It's been there the whole time.
CrossFit was a thing?
Yeah.
You had never heard of it?
Never heard of it, yeah.
So you must be one of very few.
Been there the full time, didn't know it existed. So yeah, it's quite funny. It's literally 400 meters away.
And that's it? That's still the gym that you train out of now?
Still the gym I train at, yeah.
So did you just take to it did you just love it?
Yeah, pretty much. Did like as soon as lockdown lifted, did my first class, which was still like you go in and the boxes were all taped. You had to stay in your box and everything was you were only allowed 1 hour in the gym a day.
You're like, I'm just getting warmed up.
Yeah. So from like September to November, I was just in the classes in the gym, and then in November, the end of November, we went back into lockdown. So still didn't have any gymnastic skills, but I just kind of took the opportunity to learn weightlifting.
Right, okay.
Because I'd done powerlifting, but I'd never done weightlifting, like snatch and clean and jerk. So that was, got like an online weightlifting coach and took that time to learn that. And we didn't come out of lockdown until the May. So that was May 2021 that we came out of lockdown. So I did my first open in my garage.
I can remember that. That's when you had to film your own workouts and send them off to be judged, basically, verified.
So yeah, I did that. That was like February, March time that I did that. But I still
had just been aged 20, 21?
Yes, 21.
Yeah, 21. So obviously that was the first lockdown.
Yeah, so that was like the winter lockdown.
Yeah, and then obviously gyms opened back up and then you could get back to training properly.
Yeah, so that was when, it was like May 2021 is when I started to learn the gymnastics side of things. So that has been like my biggest struggle, but also the least amount of time I've had is in that field.
Right, okay. Do you enjoy it? Or is it still something that you struggle with?
I enjoy learning new skills. So I do enjoy it. It becomes a bit harder when like your career and stuff now relies on learning those new skills. But
doesn't matter if you need to enjoy it. It's like if you don't want to go to work some days, you just need to go. So it's the same for you, isn't it? That's your employment now. So take us through your CrossFit journey so far then, from when you started to obviously realise that you've got potential there. You fell in love with it, your training, your discipline and your motivation was all there. So take us through how you progressed.
So from doing like my first open in my garage, so that was 2021, I qualified for the quarters from just doing the open in my garage.
Right,
I still had like no gymnastic skills. But because one of the workouts that year was like dumbbell snatches and burpee box jumps, because my score was like quite high on that, qualified for quarters. But as I say, had no gymnastic skills, so I didn't even bother paying to do the quarters because I couldn't do anything. And we were still in lockdown, so I still didn't have the equipment and stuff that you needed to be able to do it.
So was the quarters going to be in a venue? Or
no,
that was still going to be
quarters
in your home gym, basically filmed workouts?
Right, so even now, quarters is still filmed and submitted.
Right, okay.
But you need more equipment. So you need like a GHD and things like that, which I didn't have in my garage. And we didn't even have like space to do like, not that I could do it, but like ring muscle ups and things like that.
I was going to say, you're relying on having that home gymnastic equipment. It's all very well having barbells in some space, but to actually have home gymnastics equipment, it's quite limiting, isn't it?
I think as well at the time, like America and other places had like their lockdown had lifted, but the UK very much, our gyms were still shut. So I think as well at the time, like it was hard for people in the UK to do it. But because I had qualified, and then when we came out of lockdown in May, I was like, right, next year I want to actually do the quarters. So I need to learn all these gymnastic skills so that I can actually compete. So we came out in the May, got my first bar muscle up in the May, although it was horrendous, and then got my first ring muscle up in the July. So started putting together all these gymnastic skills, handstand walking, things like that, double unders. So then 2022 got through to quarters and I was 95th in Europe. So the top 60 qualified for the semis.
Right, okay.
So I was close, but
very
not close enough. So then from there I was like, right, I was close. Next year I want to make it to semis. So
did that give you like a real taste for it? Were you determined just to go away, lock yourself away, work hard and come back fighting next year?
Yeah, pretty much. And in 2022 as well, I like entered in every competition I could. So I did like Battle for Middle Grounds, European Championships, every kind of individual competition that I could just to get experience.
Not everybody can perform in such a setting. You know, I mean, they might hit the numbers in their local gym when it's in front of people that they know, but when you take that into a competitive situation where you've got the lights and the cameras and obviously other really high level athletes as well, some people can't handle the pressure. So was that a deliberate tactic from yourself, just to immerse yourself within that CrossFit competition world and just get as much experience as you want? 100%.
And as well, just like, because CrossFit, unlike triathlon, like you know what you're turning up to, you know your event, you know your distances. You don't know that in CrossFit. So just to see how I would cope with that as well, like something being announced and then me having to do it there and then on the spot, and like how I would cope with that and adapt to that. So yeah, it was basically just to get the experience of competing. Did a bunch of individual ones, did some team ones as well. So then that took me round to 2023, which is the season I've just came off of.
The big year.
Yeah.
the big year. So an interesting start was that in 2021, you went from being the 246th fittest female in the UK.
Wow. 2
years later, you went to being number one in the UK. I mean, what a crazy journey that is. You must be super proud of yourself. Has the family forgave you now for not taking an academic route?
Yeah, I think they realised that maybe this is our path. Yeah.
But look, Mum, I came first. It's fine. No, it's seriously impressive. We'll get on to the European CrossFit Games just now, but you were the first and only Scottish athlete to ever make the European Games as well.
Yeah, as an individual, like as the new structure as well. I think it used to be called like regionals in the past.
Right, okay.
I'm the worst person to be asking this about. I don't know anything about it, but yes, individual first kind of semi-finals qualification.
So now that ranks you ranks you as 16th fittest in Europe.
Yeah, that's where I placed at the semis.
At the semis. That's crazy when you think how many and how little a time you've been doing it for. And at your age, at 24 now, I mean, I know there'll not be a peak age for everyone, but is there a kind of rough age where they say that CrossFit athletes will be at your peak? You're going to have a few years to reach that.
Yes.
You've got so much potential and time's on your side.
Yeah, so the average age at the semis last year was 28.
Right, okay.
So it definitely is like a older sport, CrossFit.
Yeah.
I think now a lot more teens and stuff are getting into it. But yeah, it definitely seems to be something that people have done other sports, like myself, triathlon and powerlifting, and then gotten into it.
Yeah.
Because they've not really got like that kind of grassroots level here anyway in the UK. I think again people are trying more and more now. Definitely in America you'll have more teens and stuff than we do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's definitely an older sport. So it's good because to me it seemed like I still feel like I've got like 6-7 years And, you know, I could possibly have like 10
years
left in the sport.
Yeah,
so
plenty more desire left as well. Got a lot of fuel in the tank for that. So talk to us about Berlin. Talk to us about the European Championship and how it was for you in competing at such a big event. Because it's only second to the CrossFit Games, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's the second largest CrossFit competition in the world.
So from there, the top 11 qualified to the CrossFit Games.
Right, okay.
So I was 16, so I was just kind of off. It's the best competition I've done to this day. So like the quality of it, the standard of it, how it was run, I loved the full weekend. Especially as well, like my goal for that season was to make semis. So once I'd made it, I was like, right, you've done your goal. You're just going to go have fun, see how you get on, and then that will hopefully allow you to reevaluate your goal for next year. So I think because I went in with that mindset is probably why I did do so well. Because I was just there to have fun.
Yeah, there was no pressure.
Yeah, I wasn't overanalyzing anything. I was literally just there to have fun. My full family and friends flew over to watch me.
A lot of support then.
Yeah, so I had a lot of support. So it was brilliant. It was the best experience.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
I've got a wee snippet here. You'll need to update your LinkedIn.
Oh no!
Because right now it says I'm a qualified lifeguard and fitness assistant and work casual basis at leisure centres within East Dunbartonshire. My biggest achievement to date was placing third at the British National Powerlifting Championships in 2019.
There you go.
So you need to update that. You've got a couple other strikes here.
For uni or something.
I know, I think it was, yeah. So you're also talking about like your record after record just now, but test 1, heat 2.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
So this was the big endurance one. Good. So knew that I would enjoy it. Didn't think I would do that well. I had tested it in training, funny enough, and my friend Simon from East Kilbride, he was like, you look like your bum's chewing a toffee on that assault runner. Like, nice. You look like you're speed walking. I was like, right, good start. So yeah, we tested in training and it was bad. Yeah. I think I did it in like 26 minutes, but he had set up the sled. This was another thing. Right, we were doing it on like gym mats, and it was not moving. It was so
too much
heavy.
Friction,
So I tested it then. It took me like 26 minutes. I then tested it again. One of my coaches had put together like a semi-simulation weekend for me. So I did that in London with him, and we tested it again. And then this time I did it in like 22 minutes. Which was actually faster than what I did it on the day. But again, I just put it down to the sled. I was like, oh, the sled must have been easier. And because Europe last year was like the last semi-final, we got to watch the other semi-finals going ahead. So I could see all the other times from the other girls. Yep. So mine was like fastest by miles, and I was like, nah, no, there's no way.
I don't believe it.
No, there's no way. So I was like, must be the sled. So again, like I literally went into it with no expectations, even though I had done some test trials. I knew my paces and like what I wanted to hold at each section, and that was really it. And like on the day, I couldn't have told you who was next to me. Like I was just genuinely so dialed in on each stage I had to go through.
You knocked over a minute off the previous record for that. So what was that endurance test? What was the setup? Like, what did you need to do?
It was like 3,000 meter assault bike, and then you did some sled pulls. I think it was like 3 or 4 lengths of sled pulls.
Okay. What was the weight? Can you remember?
The sled was like 84 kilos, I think. And I remember like when there was no sleds in the warm-up area. So the first time you were touching the sled was when you went out on the floor. And I remember the first time I touched it, I literally nearly fell over because it was so much lighter than what I'd practiced with.
Really?
So as soon as I had done like my first pull, I was like, yes!
Brilliant.
I was like, this is going to be great. So it was 3 or 4 length sled pulls, and then it was a 2K run on the assault runner. And then again 3 or 4 lengths of sled pulls, and then it was a kilometre ski, and then to finish off, I can't remember, I think it was 4 lengths of sled pulls to finish off.
And was your performance in that particular test the one that gave you the points to then become the fittest female in the UK?
So it's over the full weekend.
Right.
So funny enough, after that first event, I was like first place. So it was like the fastest time.
Yeah.
But going into event 2, so I wouldn't even say like ring muscle ups are a weakness of mine, but weighted ring muscle ups, like impossible.
Okay.
I don't know why I can't.
Just can't take that extra load.
Sorry. And it's funny, it's like I'd practiced in training with a weighted vest, and I'd even put all the weight in the back of the vest. But we got given it's like a ruck, so it's like a backpack.
Right, okay.
And again, I don't know what it is about this ruck. I just couldn't do it. So, and again, I knew this going into the second event that I couldn't do them.
Yeah.
And they started off with these ring muscle ups. So if you don't get past ring muscle ups, you don't get through. You don't finish the
Of course,
rest of the event. So it was quite surreal. Like I was flung into this. Like no one really knew who I was. First place, world records, and all I could think about was, oh no, everybody's going to expect
too much.
me to do it, and I can't do any of these ring muscle ups.
One trick pony.
Yeah. So it was the first day was like very emotional roller coaster. It was literally like highest high and the lowest low.
And how did you cope with that? Did you take it for what it is and just put it down to experience and the fact that you can't be the best at everything? Or did you kind of take that to heart and let it affect your confidence going forward that weekend?
So throughout the weekend, like my coach is really good. He's always like, the next right thing. So like the next right thing was event 3 on Saturday morning. Okay. So I was like quite good at just putting it behind me, is what it is, and then getting ready for event 3 on Saturday morning, which was a very good event for me. It was actually the event I was most confident in over the full weekend, even over event 1. So it was quite easy for me to like put it behind me and just focus on getting ready for Saturday morning. And
then what happened on Saturday? How did you then, I take it you bounced back? Got your score back up the leaderboard?
Yeah.
Went from first to last?
Pretty much, yeah. So I was literally first place, and then I think I was 57th out of 60.
Right,
like I was literally first and last.
It must have been soul destroying to see.
Yeah. So Saturday morning was an event called Linda, which is basically powerlifting, if you ask me. Right. It was like deadlifts, bench press, and then squat cleans. And it was like 10 down to 1. So it was powerlifting, but also had that kind of endurance aspect of it as well. So it suited me perfectly. So I took third in that event. So again, that like soared me back up the leaderboards.
Were you one of the youngest there as well?
One of them, there was younger athletes. One of my friends, actually, Lucy, she's only 16.
Really?
She was there. So she's incredible. But but one of the youngest.
Yeah.
So Saturday morning went really well, and then Saturday evening was again like more running and snatching. And I took 6 in one of those events. So again, like another good event for me. But Sunday morning was another terrible event for me. So it literally couldn't have been more up and down the full weekend. And that's kind of like your pot luck with CrossFit. Like if I only had one bad event come up, I would have made it to the games. But because I had 2, it took such a knock on my score.
Just put you down out of that zone.
Yeah.
And how did you feel, obviously, when did you come to, like, obviously it's an amazing achievement being given that title. Obviously you would have been on cloud 9, been named and presented with a certificate that says that you're quite rightly so the fittest female in the UK. But was there pressure that comes with that once it's settled in? How did you then wake up the next game morning and think, shit, what am I going to do to improve this? Am I going to be able to retain it next year? Did that affect you, or did it just spur you on? Yeah,
it actually took me months to kind of see the positive out of it, actually.
Really?
Yeah, which is, it sounds so silly, but immediately after the weekend, I was like, I just felt a bit embarrassed that I had like competed at that level, but couldn't, like, was so terrible at some of the movements. Like the rock climbing muscle ups, I literally couldn't even do them. Yeah. Like it wasn't a fact of like, I was slow at the event, literally couldn't do it. And then the Sunday morning event was like strict handstand push-ups as well. Again, failing singles. So like, I felt a bit embarrassed about how am I the fittest in the UK. Yeah, I couldn't do two of the events out of like the 7 events. Yeah. So I started analysing everything, and again in like a negative aspect. My coach phoned me that week, and all I had in my head was I need to lose weight. Like I'm clearly far too heavy. I need to lose weight to be good at the gymnastics. And you know, he obviously is like dealing with like heightened emotions. He's like, yeah, okay, no, but okay, yeah. Like just trying to talk me out of it, but not tell me I'm wrong type thing, so that I don't get too much in one head. But that was like all I could think about from that event. So
it's such a strange human nature, like a human emotion, that there's so much positivity going. You've done amazing in 5 out of the events, but because you didn't do so good in 2 of them, that's what you focused on. Yeah,
100%.
And then did the penny just drop one day and you think like, enough of the negative thoughts, let's get back into the gym, let's get on the ball and start going for it?
Yeah, so I was back in the gym the week later, which this year I think it will take longer. Not really any reason why, but just because the season's so long, you know. It wasn't even like a week of easiness back. It was like straight back into it. So I took a full week off, and then I was basically straight back into it. Yeah.
And do you think mentally that was too soon as well?
Yeah, I think because in my head I was like, I need to get in. I've got a year now to learn these skills. Like I need to. You couldn't have talked me out of it. Like I was going back to the gym, but yeah. Now in hindsight, I should have taken a wee bit longer.
So how's your training coming along now?
Yeah, it is feeling really well. As I say, it took me months to realise that, like, again, I am probably one of the heavier athletes on the field, one of the taller athletes, but that doesn't affect my endurance. And I think when the penny kind of dropped, I was like, you know, you're good at your endurance because you've been doing it since you were like 9. You know, you're good at your powerlifting because you've been doing that for like 5 years now. Yeah,
a couple of extra kilos and muscle is not going to hold you back in other events.
It is literally just time under my belt. So when that finally drops, and then as well, like I've had so much positivity off the back of having like the UK Fittest title. Had some like really good opportunities and stuff off the back of it. But again, I just was in my head like, oh, like again, like I didn't deserve it. I was like embarrassed to hold the title. Like, how am I the fittest? I couldn't do 2 of the events. But I think when, like, again, I just accepted, like, okay, you've achieved this. Be happy. Like, this is amazing.
Give yourself a pat on the back. Allow yourself. Yeah, definitely.
And like, if I will do everything I can in my training, like, it's not like me to not try hard. Like I'm trying my hardest, and if I don't retain it next year, I don't retain it. Like it's not because I didn't try. You know, like
you're happy that you couldn't train anymore, like harder than what you are. You're giving it your best shot.
And like some people, you know, will never have the fittest in the UK title and would love to have it. So I just need to like be happy that I at least got it.
Wear it with honour. Do your best to retain it, and like you say, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. You've got a long career ahead of you. You know, you are only so young. So sticking in the theme of the podcast, obviously the resilience side of things. Resilience is a funny word even for me, even though I named the podcast, but it's so often like linked to like pain and trauma and suffering. Whereas we've had a chat on and off camera. You didn't have the kind of misfortune of having to deal with any of that, which is good. Your resilience has been earned by yourself. The only pain and suffering that you have is self-inflicted. So where does that come from? Is it an innate desire to win and to work hard? Or do you visualise yourself in years to come standing at the CrossFit Games on the podium? Is that what drives you, or do you just have this discipline that you've set your mind to do something, nothing's going to stop you?
Yeah, I think like I come from like a very academic family, but everyone is very like high up in whatever profession it is that they do. So like in my family, everybody is really disciplined. They work really hard, and you know whatever it is that they want to do. So I think it's like second nature for me. Like this is what I want to do. I really enjoy it. And like, I just work as hard as I can, you know, like no stone left unturned, as hard as I can. And like, I think that's just been drilled in for me, like from a family level.
Yeah. If you're going to do it, then you throw yourself right
pretty
in it
much.
and do it as best as you can. You must have times, periods of days or weeks, maybe even longer, where you lose that desire a little bit and things, you maybe hit certain blocks in training physically and mentally. Obviously, we all do that day-to-day life as well. How do you overcome yours? Do you allow yourself some time to just take a step back, or is it a case of battering through it?
Yeah, I think when I get like in my own head too much, I'm really lucky that I've got like some really inspiring people in my life. They won't mind me talking about it, but like two of my best friends, both really young, got cancer.
Right. Okay.
And my little sister's had some really bad health problems throughout her life as well. And I think like seeing them like battle that and their strength from strength to strength through it. I think when I'm feeling sorry for myself in the gym and I'm having a bad day, like just being able to think of them and think of like the situations they've had to deal with and things like that, like picks me back up, you know.
Yeah.
Now, like, it's a bit of a reality check for me. And not that like everybody's feelings are valid, you know, like not to say that mine aren't valid just because I'm feeling rock ring muscle ups. But yeah, I think having them is like they are like my inspiration. I think anytime I'm in like that dark place and I work out, even if I think about them, and it spurs me on.
Just drives you through. It's an amazing power, like the power of perspectives.
Yeah.
You know, and if people could grasp that instead of feeling sorry for themselves or hard done by, like there's always, no matter how bad a situation you think you're in, there's always someone there that would happily jump in your shoes. Do you know what I mean? And if people could focus on how good and how lucky they have got it, or how lucky they are, to an extent, everybody has bad days, whatever else. But like you're using the ill health of your sister and your friends to drive you on. It's a great emotion, the ability to see other people's how their life is and use that to drive you. Moving forward into your CrossFit career, what's your aims and goals for this year?
I would love to make the games.
That's a biggie.
Yeah, that is my goal. I think with CrossFit though, like, you know, it's hard when you're like, now essentially this is my career. And unlike coming from like a sport like triathlon, you know, like, you know, your events, you know what you train day in and day out to do. And you train for the 4-year cycle, the Olympics, you turn up and that's what you've got to do. But like I spend all year training these movements that I think are going to come up, and then they could not come up. So as much as I would love to make the games, and that is my goal, I can't be like too upset if I don't, because I've done everything I can, and if they fling a movement in that's totally brand new, then
well, hopefully not. They got you to last year, so maybe it'll be even a better year for you this year. And that's the thing with the CrossFit Games; they can literally throw in anything. Yeah, you don't know what you're doing until that day. Is that right? Yeah. So you can train, and obviously you would practice training and all the different disciplines that they have, but they could throw totally something else in, and literally you might never have done it that day and you're expected to do it.
100%.
And that's when I think I spoke to, obviously Ali Crawford was on the podcast as well, who won the CrossFit Games Masters, and she was saying that like to try and train for absolutely everything is just impossible. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's so difficult to try and cover every avenue, and that's why the title of the fittest in the UK, the fittest in the world, she was talking, and we'll touch on it, that she had a few hate mails, maybe a bit extreme, but messages to say, well, actually, I've got a 200 kilogram squat, or I can run a marathon in 2.5 hours. And you're like, well, fine, but we're talking about overall fitness here, because they can literally expect you to do anything. Yeah. Obviously, coming with your title as the fittest female in the UK, how has your kind of experience of negative comments and things been, especially online? Have you experienced some of that?
I wouldn't say I had anything negative. I think what always amazes me though is people think it's important that you hear what they have to say. Right, okay. So like, Me personally, I would never message, someone who came second at the Olympics and be like, oh, unlucky, like nearly got the goal.
Oh, really? Is that
yeah, and it's like, I know people mean no harm by it, but it's like, why do you think that's important?
Because some people just can't see another person being successful without the need to bring them down a wee bit.
Yeah, so
definitely. They might be like, oh, well done, but...
yeah,
do you know what I mean?
So that was basically it. I never had anything like too negative, but I had a lot of that, like, oh, well done, but like you just missed out, unlucky, and things like that. So, and I think what people like forget, especially as like an athlete, like you hold yourself to that standard anyway.
Yeah.
So like you're going to beat yourself up and punish yourself enough anyway without people being like, oh, unlucky,
Oh, totally. Like you knew that you obviously wanted to do better. Like, oh, really? I didn't actually want to do any better. I just wanted to get where I did. So in the Scottish kind of CrossFit world, or the British CrossFit world, like who's your inspiration? Who do you look up to?
In like the British CrossFit scene, I'd think I'd say Sam Briggs. She's probably been like the most successful female UK athlete. Like won fittest in UK multiple times, been to the games multiple times. So I think if and she's also known for like her endurance background. So I think to kind of live up to the shoes in that aspect, and I did have a few messages about that as well, like, oh, the next Sam Briggs. So I think
pressure.
No pressure. But I think if I was to follow on from that, especially having like the same kind of endurance background would be a really nice amazing.
So when does this season kick off?
It actually kicks off next Friday with the Open, So the Open starts next Friday, and then that runs for 3 weeks. Each Friday, one workout. And then from there, you'll move on to quarters, which is in April. And that's like what you qualify to semis for this year. So it was top 60 last year that made it to semis. This year it's only top 40.
Really?
Yeah, so they've cut 20 places, so...
Okay. So it's going to be even more difficult than last year. But still, listen. Exactly. You don't make up the rules. Talking about CrossFit in general, again, we spoke about it off camera. Like, how do you see the CrossFit of the future? Obviously, High Rocks is taking some of the, maybe not the shine, maybe that's the wrong word. It's certainly a competition for CrossFit in terms of stealing some would-be CrossFitters and moving them over to High Rocks, which is probably more accessible. They can train in a more kind of normal gym. There's not the same technical lifts and stuff as well. Do you think that's having an effect as CrossFit as a brand, as a games, or do you think it's actually promoting it because it's pushing more people into that kind of functional fitness world? Yeah,
I think like maybe I'm a bit biased because I personally feel this way, but I think because they just chop and change and fling stuff up, and like I say, if you were like a triathlete, and you turned up and they were like, oh, by the way, we're going to make you do high jump, like it just wouldn't happen. Like as an athlete, you train for your craft to perfect your craft. That's your career. So your career is based on like the unknown, essentially, and like you train all year for semi-finals. Like my sponsorships and things like that, kind of rely now on my performance and how well I do. And they fling something at me, which from a triathlon and powerlifting background is going to take me longer to pick up than someone who's had a gymnast background. Just like if they flung like a marathon run, as I might be better at it than someone who never did running as a kid as well. But I think because of that, like unknown, it is putting people off. Like you turn up to the gym now and it's something that you can't even get through a workout. Like you can't actually enjoy a workout because you can't get through the movement. So I think like if they just made like a book of movements that could come up, like the squat will come up, the deadlift will come up, running will come up. And they can change the distance, they can change the weights, they can change what's paired with one another. But the movements come up. So at least you know what movements you're training for instead of like just flinging stuff. And I think that is putting people off because, as I say, like they are signing up to the Open and then they're not even getting to do a workout. Like last year, the Open's meant to be all inclusive. And last year they had ring muscle ups in it, which is a really high skill movement. And they had strict handstand push-ups, which again is a really high skill movement. So it's like 2 out of the 3 workouts that you're paying to sign up to do that you can't even do.
And do you think they're doing that deliberately to reduce the pool of people because the number of people that they're allowing to qualify is dropping as well?
Well, it's funny you've saying that because they've reduced the amount from quarters to semis to 40, but they've increased the amount from the Open to quarters from 10% to 25%.
Right, okay.
So they've increased that massively. So they want more people to get from the Open through to quarters, and then less people from quarters through to semis.
Sounds like a business decision.
No, it's just, it's hard when like your career essentially relies on it and it's just totally unknown and unpredictable. But yeah, I think High Rocks, because it's a set event, you know what you're training for. That's why a lot of people are going into it. Because like you know what you're paying for, you know what you're signing up to do.
Yeah, and you can just go away and concentrate on that.
Yeah.
So talking about careers wise, you're now full-time CrossFit athlete.
Yeah, so I managed to go full-time in September last year.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
That must be scary. How scary and amazing at the same time.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about that? You first one in the UK, is that right?
Not in the UK,
in Scotland.
and I think in Scotland, like first paid athlete essentially anyway to do it. Again, that came with like a negative side where I was like, this is no longer for fun. This is like you need to be good at this now. You know?
Need to perform. Or your sponsors will not remain.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? There's a pressure there.
Exactly.
An added pressure there.
But I think and then again from last year, I did so well working full time that I was like, should I really be changing anything and things like that? But then again, I had those big weaknesses. So I think any athlete who is like up at the top of their game is full time. And again, just about what we were saying about perspective, like if you just try to change my perspective about it, like I'm so lucky that I'm getting to do this. This is everything that I've ever wanted to do. I've always wanted to be a full-time athlete. So again, I'm just going to embrace it. And if it only lasts a year, but it's, for now, this is everything I've always wanted.
It must have been a funny feeling when you got that full-time athlete. I don't even know what that's called. An athlete contract. But it's like, I'm getting paid to jump about the gym and train daft. But of course, it's not all positive. There does come a big pressure. And it also affects your future lifestyle, career, finances and stuff as well. So it's a big stage, but it's an exciting one as well to be able to do that. And to give you the time and put you on a level par with the opportunities that the athletes get abroad in CrossFit. You've now got that extra time to train. You don't have the pressure of a full-time job or a part-time job for finances, which then it evens you up with the top European and American, Australian athletes, doesn't it? Because a lot of them are full-time sponsored.
Yeah, essentially almost everyone kind of at the top is full-time. So you can never, unless you're really, really, really talented, being a part-time athlete, competing against a full-time athlete, it's the same as any sport. Exactly.
You're never going to be able to reach the same depths. I spoke to Ali Crawford about you, and she wrote me. She wrote me a wee message that I was to read out to you. All right, so I'll do that just now. Jen, I remember first meeting you in 2021 when you came through to CrossFit East Kilbride for a group training session. There were lots of experienced, fit people who came through. My coaches had organised it, and I think the idea was that it would be good, competitive push for everyone, and it was a great help to me and my CrossFit Games training to be racing with you, the fit youngster. You had been doing CrossFit for about a year at this point, and you were already an unbelievable CrossFit athlete with just about all the skills, a ridiculous strength base, and a brilliant engine. It was clear from the very beginning that you also had that ability to really push and hurt in a workout, which not everyone can do. You are genuinely one of the most down-to-earth, hard-working athletes I've ever met. It's so refreshing that you just go about your business without constantly telling the social media world how wonderful and amazing you are, brackets, which you actually are, by the way, haha. You're genuinely such a positive role model for young women. I love that you're humble with a great sense of humour and really good fun to train with. you should definitely make the games this year. And you should definitely make the games, and this year hopefully will be the one that you do. I'm super proud of you. Keep believing in yourself, because I always will.
Oh, that's so sweet.
So there you go. That's Ali Crawford, who won the CrossFit Games Masters back in 2022. She's so lovely, obviously a massive inspiration for males and females of all ages. There was some questions that had came in from people on Instagram, and one of the kind of main ones that was asked a few times is, people still see CrossFit as kind of, even entry level CrossFit as a high skilled. You need to be fit to start, and it puts people off. It would put me off. You're going into a gym that's a very community based gym. It's not like you just go in there to train yourself and stuff. What would you say to people that are just too scared to try CrossFit because they think that they're not good enough already?
Yeah, I mean, it's easier said than done, but I think honestly, signing up and going, and you will just see, like, for example, my mum does it. She's 58. So she joined in February last year, so still goes. And everything is totally adaptable and scaled, you know, like she very rarely will snatch, mostly because she just doesn't want to. So it just doesn't, like, there's so much that you can scale and adapt, that it is genuinely for everyone. So my mum and my neighbour walk down to the gym. They go Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, gives them a bit of social, keeps them healthy. It does genuinely, I would say genuinely, it is for everyone at different levels, but the CrossFit gym does provide those different levels for you.
Yeah, and once you're in there and you see that it's not a room full of scarily fit folk that don't like kind of people that are not quite as good as them, it is a good community. It's a massive community, and we were talking earlier that in Scotland, especially because it's although it's getting bigger, thanks to people like yourself and Ali who are promoting it, and especially for women and females, that it's going to such a high standard now. It's still a close community. Everybody's there to support each other as well. Everybody's there to see each other do well. It's competitive, but it's not that kind of bitchy way.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Yeah, because I'm like the only person in my gym who really competes.
Right, okay.
So out of the full gym, it is only really me. So yeah,
it must be like a wee celebrity, in your gym. So we'll start to bring the podcast to a conclusion now, but you're only 24. You've obviously got a big career ahead of you, but if you could be remembered for one thing as it stands, what would it be?
I think for like loving the sport. I think even from my performance last year, that was like the main thing that everybody kind of picked up, is I think I was the only person on the floor out there waving at my family before we even started. Just like, you if you took the clip, you would not say I was about to do my first event in semi-finals. So yeah, I think I would love to be able to keep that personality with me throughout my full career, and no matter what stage I get to, that I'm there and I'm loving it, you know, and then, you know, kind of put that message across that like you gotta have fun in what you do. You know, if you ever get to that point it's making you miserable, it's not worth it, no matter what level you're at. So yeah, I'd like to be able to continue to keep that in my performance and keep that message across. And
definitely. And I think it's important. Obviously, Ali touched on it with our message there, that in a world where social media is such a big influence and people are so keen to show everybody what they can do, even though most of the time it's not actually the case. They maybe do that to put pressure on themselves by an accountability kind of way, by making a promise to the social media world. But I think it's far more important to keep that pressure and promise and make that to yourself. Do you find that you're more likely to succeed and remain disciplined and fight for something when you make that intrinsic deal with yourself, or do you prefer to put it out there and let other people pressure you?
No, definitely keep it to myself. I think like me keeping it personal with my coaches, you know, and like I've got 2 coaches who I work with, and I feel like really only us 3 really know my goals. And
right, okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't really, for me, I wouldn't want to broadcast it one, in case I didn't get it as well, but also to like, it's not something I really want to like rub in anyone's face, like, I set my goal and I made it. Like
so many people do.
Yeah, some people do, but I would much rather just keep it to myself and like keep ticking them off behind the scenes. Yeah.
Well, Jennifer, honestly, you're a huge inspiration to both young and old athletes and just normal non-athletes as well, male and female, to reach the levels where you've got to in such a short space of time. You obviously had your swimming and powerlifting, but you succeeded in that as well. It just shows that you've obviously got a natural talent, but your kind of mental resilience, your discipline, your motivation is what really drives you. And I can't wait to see what you achieve this year.
Thank you.
Thanks very much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me.